Hello and good afternoon, good evening, and in some locations, especially in Australia, good morning to everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. And ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding show for you. As you're going to see, the panel is much different than it's normally because, well, folks, the sickness bug has been hitting everyone. First of all, I want to apologize because I had advertised that ACG was going to be here. Unfortunately, he can't be here tonight. He's gonna reschedule for another time. He's sick. His family's sick. Unfortunately, these things happen. Keisante, him and his whole family are sick as well, so he's taking the knee. Unfortunately, hopefully everyone is feeling better. And again, we're in New Rochelle here, so we've been having winds of 60 miles an hour. Unfortunately, Crispy Bomb isn't going to make it because he has lost power. So I had to send out the bat signal, and many people responded. And we're going to first start with those many people. Mav, what's going on, brother? Thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us and put down Need for Speed Unbound.
Yeah, I'm glad to be able to be here, Boom. I was like, hey, you know what am I going to do right now? I was either going to play something, I was going to stream something, and I saw the DM. I was like, hell yeah, I'm here. So let's do this. It's been a while since I've been on Primetime, and it's one of your best shows, obviously. So it's good to be here.
That.
King is here. Mag is here. I haven't got to podcast with Mag in a while.
Hit me up.
King is like one of the favorite people to watch on any
He's
show
the best,
as well.
best of the best of the best,
Yeah.
sir.
Oh
and
my God.
Dutch is amazing, and we got John here as well. Just an amazing panel we got. So you did a great job getting a ragtag group here. I'm lucky to be here right now.
You know what? It is one of the events as a host that you fear the most. That basically the S hit the fan, and here we are. But we're here to still deliver a killer show, and we have some killer topics. But John Wolf answered the call as well, brother. How you feeling? Welcome.
Doing good, Boom. Thanks for sending out the invite. And I know you needed a little bit of backup. I just finished work literally when I got the message from you. I'm like, let me jump on, Boom. I'll talk games anytime. And with the panel you put together here, even though it's not your normal Avengers that you put on a weekly basis, I think it's safe to say that we're the defenders tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, there's nothing wrong with the defenders. I like the
hell
defenders
no.
are a solid team of heroes
sure.
as well. I definitely appreciate you being here. And Mr. King Crocs, who's under the weather but still has the Hulk-like power to be here. What's going on, King David? How you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic, but I'm getting a little bit better. Like I apologize for missing that breakfast with Boom.
Oh, stop.
But I'm happy to be on prime time. Hey, I'm on prime time. Hold on one second, babe. Sorry, guys.
It's quite all right, brother. It's real life.
I want everybody to give their prayers and their well wishes to get well to Sith Lord. He's battling some stuff. Didn't know that the stuff that he was battling. And until he really texted me because we talk all the time.
Yes, we do.
And it put a lot of things in my life in perspective. So we game and stuff like that, but we're part of a community, and I think he needs our prayers more than anything. So my prayers go out to Sith Lord. He supports everyone.
He does,
especially everybody here.
Yep.
And he does it on a consistent basis. So please. But video games, yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, obviously, Sith Lord is a monster part of this community. He is definitely a support of everyone here. And yeah, he is going through some stuff. Now, we're not going to get into particulars because that's his personal business, but we will say that we wish him well. And obviously, best, listen, health, if you don't have health, folks, you don't have anything. But we have a crew here. Wandering Dutch, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
What's going on? Yes, it's always great to be on the show. Of course, great to be on the floor with King as usual. It's been a while since we've had you on our show as well, King. It needs to change, so we'll get that sorted when you're feeling a bit better. But yeah, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to jumping into some topics tonight. A little bit different topics as well, not all CMA related, so it's even better.
Yeah, no, we're Well, we're going to get into the Game Awards. I mean, that in itself has been I mean, like I said, I said this before, and I'll say it again. I know a lot of people don't like Geoff Keighley. I happen to really like Geoff. I think he's an incredible part of the industry. I have zero issues that he wears his PlayStation love on his sleeve because I wear my Xbox One on mine. I don't think that's an issue. I think that what gets Geoff in trouble, unfortunately, is some of the things that he does that are considered by many to be console war-esque related, which I think that someone of his stature really shouldn't be doing. Obviously, one of the big talks that came out of last week's Game On Daily, which with Asa and Gaz, they had both Neo GameSpark as well as ACG on, and they talked a lot about timing of the Game Awards and why that needs to change, and they're not wrong. I have big opinions about that, but we have some information coming out of the Xbox 2 podcast with Grand Althor 19, great friend of this show, as well as another great friend of the show, Jez Corden of Windows Central, where, folks, there is some rumors that Jez dropped out there that shocked a lot of people. We're going to get into what he thinks and has heard might happen. The Game Awards might look a little different this year. Mag, what's going on, brother? How's your hand, dude?
Oh, the hand is getting better. You know what? It's just fine now. I'm able to wiggle the finger, so it's all good. But enough of my hand. I'm not sick. That's one good thing. But, I'm telling you one thing. I'm sick of one thing, and I'm sick of seeing this footage without this game in Game Pass. This is a game that should have gone to Game Pass day one. I don't know why the hell it didn't happen. I mean, let's face it. We all know why it didn't happen. Everborn can back me up here. Microsoft's playing possum until January 2023. We all know the reasons why. But anyways.
No, Mag, the answer is because it has not become victim of the Everborn curse, which means I have not bought it yet.
But you got to buy it.
Yes.
You got to buy it, and then it's going to show up in Game Pass the next day. That's right. Exactly. But man, look at this panel tonight. We got John Wolf in here. We've got Mav in here, and we got King David in here. Of course, we got Dutch. We got Everborn now, who's just creeping in the back. We got Boom here, guys. We got a great show. We got a great chat. But actually, you know what? Something King said about Sith Lord. He actually sent me a message on Thanksgiving Day, and I'm sure he wouldn't even mind, but I'm gonna read it to you what he said to me. And he says, "On this Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for you and listening to you every week, and your videos make me happy. And the community's a better place with you in it."
That's beautiful.
It was beautiful. You know what? And I was in bed when I got the message, and I woke up in the morning. I saw that, and it just set the tone for the whole week. It almost brought me to tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I crack the jokes, I do whatever, I make funny videos, ha ha ha, and I get engagement, blah 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 blah. But you know the thing is, at the end of the day, you get a message like that from someone, then you know that you know what I mean. You know you've done something, and to me, that's what means everything in the world. It ain't the money. It's definitely not the money. It's not that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's none of that.
Okay? I was about to say, wait, you getting paid?
Yeah. Well, not from this. But you know what I mean. But the thing is, I make my money elsewhere. But the thing is, with this kind of thing, if I can make people happy, I can make people laugh, I can make people think, I can make people, not even argue, just like be able to converse with each other. Then this is what we're doing right. And just a message like that, like, really changed my outlook on a lot of things. It just made me realize that what we're doing in this community is a great thing. So, anyways, enough of that. I just wanted to get into the show tonight.
Nah, that's good stuff, dude. I love that you shared that. Sith Lord, I talk with him on a daily basis in DMs. He's as real as they come. Yep. He's going through some stuff. But he still finds a way during his tough battles to be here, to throw a super chat in there, to be in the chat, to interact with other people and enjoy gaming. And you know something, that's really what it's all about. I say that all the time. Some of the messages that I get are so heartfelt. And I don't read them on the air because, people are private, and some maybe they're just, it's a conversation for two, not for 22 or 202. So I don't really make mention of it, but I've had those messages, and they are very heartfelt. They make doing what we do so worth it. And that is another example. But Everborn Saga, Kay Asante is not here, but I have to do something that you're going to carry around with you for weeks, potentially up until this Saturday's Gaming Circle podcast.
Yes,
and I'm going to give you your flowers because your conspiracy theory that we called...
Wait, which one?
Well, I was going to say which one.
There have been many, but this particular one of Microsoft playing possum might have some truth to it. Obviously, we're going to talk about that momentarily. First of all, how the heck are you, brother?
I'm all right, man. I'm good. There's so much to talk about, but I'm really just here for the flowers, Boom. That's why.
Well, you're going to get them. You're going to. I mean,
listen. We first of all, Mav is here, John Wolf is here, and we are among royalty. The man, King David, my brother. Always dope to be here with Mag, the what is it? Pony Master 420?
Pony Master 420. He's going to make a comeback.
He's
going to make a comeback real soon. I've been getting a lot of messages about that, but I'm like, listen, guys, it's been real quiet lately. I know there's a lot of, the ABK deal stuff. I said, but listen, the fanboys have been pretty quiet right now. I said, but when they start acting up, don't worry. I'm going to be right there. And those videos are going to come right back.
I'm expecting that Jim Ryan wig to be used.
Listen,
I'm working on a Jim Ryan video right now.
Because they just got Ragnarok.
That's what I'm saying. So they're busy playing something right now, and they're quiet because it's up for Game of the Year. Trust me, when those Game Awards are over, the next day they're gonna be starting with the nonsense. So trust me, this coming soon.
I love
and
it.
Everborn, and to Boom's credit, when I heard that Todd Howard interview, I think yesterday, dude, I thought about you and I said, damn, you know what? Now that Everborn said that little conspiracy thing, because the way Todd said in the interview, hey, you know what? No, like we just felt like it needed more time. I'm like,
okay.
Did Phil tell you to hold back a little bit there?
I think Phil said a lot more than just hold back. I think there's a lot to be had about that. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everyone that's here. I want to pull up the first story because we got to rip this Band-Aid off and go right into it. I pulled a story from twistedvoxel.com. It was written by Muhammad Ali Bari, I should say. And the lead, the lead article says Xbox possibly holding back announcements at the Game Awards due to regulatory reason. And of course, that falls right into some of the quote unquote crackpot theories that Everborn Saga has been touting for what seems like 6 months. But listen to this, folks. According to the story, and I'm reading verbatim, speaking on the latest episode of the Xbox 2 podcast, Jez Corden revealed that he has heard mixed things about whether or not Xbox is even going to show up at the Game Awards 2022. Now, Corden cautioned that he doesn't know for sure, but the vague rumor he's been hearing imply mixed things about Xbox being at the Game Awards. According to what he's heard, Microsoft may be holding back on new game announcements due to regulatory eyes on the current ABK situation. Now, due to what he's heard, he's keeping his expectations in check, but they go on to say, folks, he also mentioned that according to another rumor, Sony has in fact canceled its own showcase because it didn't want to confuse its messaging to regulators, and Xbox may do the same in the case of the Game Awards. He reminded that the CMA had used his own article as an example of Xbox having lots of exclusive games. Regulators are currently investigating Microsoft's acquisition of Activision, and Sony has been making a case about it negatively to affect competition. I'm going to go first to Everborn because Everborn, you have been saying this for quite some time.
I have.
I have always said that I don't think that's true, but the more and more we hear, it seems as like everyone is taking a knee, but now Microsoft might be doing it again. First, we heard of the delays. 3 major delays of games that actually were supposed to come out this year, not coming out till next year, and they have been leading the charge with Game Pass. Now, also, now that we're hearing Jez Corden, Jez Corden's a pretty damn good source of information. And when he talks like E.F. Hutton, I listen. What are your thoughts?
So here's the thing, right? I don't know why, first of all, I just want to know if people get tired of me being right. But aside from that, if there's nobody that will tell you that, Microsoft is not going to make any other smaller acquisitions right now because they're trying to get the Activision deal closed, right? We know that, right? We can at least say that if you don't want to believe my conspiracy theory, right? And the reason for that is, even though it's not illegal for them to make a smaller purchase, like say Crystal Dynamics and IDOS for $300 million, that's Trump change to them. They don't do it because they don't want any more eyeballs on them. So if we can acknowledge that they'll hold back on acquisitions, why not think that they would also hold back on content, especially in now that we have the hindsight of every rumor article, every unannounced game, every game that or announced game that hasn't released yet, Sony is just snitching to the regulators about it, right? So King, if you have a snitch in the crew, right, you don't just walk around letting them know all your business.
Oh, you
right?
let them know certain business
Exactly.
to trip them up.
Exactly, right? So they can't really go out there and blow the doors off with all the deals they have and everything that's in the works and everything that hasn't been leaked yet. Why? Because it's just going to come up in the court papers, right? Yep. So Jim Ryan is going to have his Skittles color corn rolls and pointing out that's the defendant right there, right?
Really? We went there?
Yeah, he did.
So this is what's going to happen. So I absolutely believe that that is that I was right, but also that it's credible reporting. But on top of that, it makes sense because they know that even though they look bad right now, because could you imagine if Starfield and Redfall came out and they had trailers for Avowed and all that stuff right now, what kind of numbers Game Pass would be doing after Sony already snitched and said it was 29 million? How many millions higher would it have been if this holiday they also had Redfall, Starfield, and all these other things and other things they could have put in Game Pass, like the thing that's right in front of you, right? So that would not look good when they're trying to when Sony is telling regulators, look, Game Pass is unstoppable, right? But you can't prove a negative, so they can't, like they are the smallest subscription service if you go by PlayStation Plus and Nintendo's whatever. So all these things make sense. You got to look like the wounded lamb because the regulators got eyeballs on these things and Sony is snitching. So I'll just wrap up by saying that I do, however, suspect that in the coming month, especially once we get past December, the news and the announcements are going to be coming hot and heavy as it relates to approvals and things like that. And I know we're going to talk about that later, but the more confident they are that the deal is going through, you are going to see them more confident in their advertising and marketing. So the wait is almost over. We have that news and we'll talk about that later, but they're right at the end of the tunnel. They're at the light at the end of the tunnel. Don't mess it up now by showing a big must-have exclusive that you lock down, because Sony's going to try to use that against you, or the regulators will.
I mean, that's good stuff, and you're absolutely 100% right. We have Galvestron in the chat. Actually, King, and this is going to be for you, brother. He's saying holding back Game Pass Family Plan until after ABK. I mean, first of all, what are your thoughts on the Game Awards? Obviously, see that there's something to be said about the word "quote-unquote" holding back, right? Because the Game Awards, and again, I say this, I want people to understand, regardless of your personal feelings of Geoff. Yeah, you understand how I feel about him. I quite like Geoff Keighley. I like him for what he does for the industry. Millions upon millions upon millions of eyes. It is probably one of the most viewed shows every year, and it continues to dominate the numbers game. So Microsoft taking the knee here, where they can show Avowed, where they could show Hellblade 2 in actual full-on, 10-minute trailer of actual gameplay, or maybe even Compulsion's new third-person, adventure romp, right? But if they decide to, well, listen, we've already announced that we are delaying all these games. To you, as a businessman, how big of a deal actually is this if they decide to, quote unquote, take the knee?
Well, I was privy to a lot of different informations all at once, right? So, like when you're sick, you really can't do nothing but read, right? So I'm laying there reading, looking at DMs that I didn't check, and I'm like, that really didn't make any sense. And then I started reading other DMs, and then everything just started coming together. All right. So from what I gather, and this is speculation and talk amongst friends, right? What I gather is Sony has the numbers because Sony got MLB The Show on Game Pass. So they get active numbers every month. If they want to pull up the numbers, they can pull up the numbers at all times. The numbers that they do see, they see the numbers that are main paid for accounts. So you're looking at a solid 29 million, right? Told people that before. Then
You
there's
certainly did, brother. We both did, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, because we both had we both have a small connection that we both use, and we were told that months ago.
But
Yep.
they didn't want to listen.
But when we said it, they was like, shut up, it's still at 10. Okay. Right. Okay. It's at 10, buddy. But then there's the fluff number, right? There's a number that a lot of the guys that tout that's on the 30-day trial or 15-day trial, the dollar deal, and that's another layer on top of that number, right? So the actual number is greater than the number that is reported, but the number that is reported is a foundation is solid. Okay. Jim wasn't lying there. When they asked, he gave proper numbers. That's it. And then he wasn't snitching there because he was giving the truth. Good, you're supposed to do that. Sony's holding back certain shows because they were supposed to have a show. They don't want to show too much strength, even though they're the market leader, right? But they want to go in looking weak and incapable. Microsoft noticed this. They have a couple of strategies that was on the table. One of the strategies you've already seen enacted. Two of the games that was going to bring up the caboose of the year got shifted to next year.
Yep.
For what I heard was most of these games are done and just was looking at polish and positioning. So if you pull these games off the table, that means you pull back your knights and your rooks and you just let your pawns go in front. And
I thought you were going to say ponies, but please continue.
And you just put high quality indies inside Game Pass, like Vampire Survivor.
Game of the year.
Yeah, so good. But you notice this, right? When people were yelling God of War, small contingent in Game Pass, and then it started to go into a fever pitch, was yelling Vampire Survivor. Kudos to the team that found the games to position Sarah Bond inside Game Pass to quell all the concerns throughout the months, because the positioning is going to be, we're going to fall back. Okay, so I heard that, really didn't want to believe it, didn't want to even say it out loud, but I'm like, yo, it's looking like the strategy is actually going to really work, right? And then the regulatory stuff, I didn't know too much about what was going on, so I have to look at Hogue, and then I have to look at and listen to more intelligent people in that field to explain to me exactly what's happening, right? Because we can speculate, and I can joke all the time, but when it comes to these big numbers, we're not in that ballpark. So we have to listen to guys that see these deals. When the FTC got involved, that was another wrinkle, but that was an expected wrinkle from what I know to happen, because it happened to other, the Apple thing, Facebook stuff, but they expect them to fall in line as well. Okay. Now, the show. I don't really like Game Awards because what I like, I don't need anyone to tell me is good. I don't need anyone to say it's Game of the Year. It's good for our developers. It's good for our programmers. It's good for the producers. is good for that, to generate more interest and to get out to everyone. So we need that. But for me personally, I don't really care that much. I heard Microsoft was going to have a big presence if the ABK deal was concluded. It's not. They're going to have a very mild presence. They're going to be there, but those announcements that you thought it was going to be habitual occurrence aren't. Not this one. Not this one here. The next one. From what I understand, the moment that deal happens, all hell is going to break loose.
Yeah, I'm hearing the same
yep.
thing as well, and it's probably because of this, because of the connections that we both have, King. You're
Yes.
absolutely, yep.
Well, you was at a you were privy to something, right? Sir, congratulations as well. You were privy to direct knowledge, right? So you know things directly. So a lot of guys, they have speculation. You have direct horses knowledge of certain things. All hell is going to break loose after the fact. But right now, both are standing pat, right? So both are playing coy. So if you thought you was going to get a great PlayStation show at the Game Awards, no. If you thought you was going to get a state of play that was going to show dominance, no. If you thought you was going to get something from Microsoft that was going to show we're here, don't worry about it, we're going to push these numbers, no. Those things are not going to happen because of what's happening in the background. This is high stakes chess. And
I would even say it's 4D chess.
And you know Phil is playing 4D all day.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I fear for two things. Yes, Evermore.
No, go ahead. I'll come in after you.
I just fear for two things. Concessions
Mm-hmm.
and demands.
Yes. Well, we're going to get into that. That's the second half of the show, brother.
Right.
I can't wait to get into that.
I just, those are the only things I fear for. But it's going to be a toned down show. Everything that you're hearing is true. But they will be there, just not in the capacity that we are used to at the Game Awards.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the Microsoft Theater, so I mean, you
have like a big world premiere there. But the thing I wanted to say, King, is that Sony didn't have a show this year, but if you want to talk about high heights from Sony and a melt your face show, I guarantee you they magically have that show ready the moment the Activision deal goes through. Because a lot of people are going to be looking at them sideways once the deal is closed, and they're going to have to prove that they're still in this fight, even though they're lying to regulators right now.
I can answer. Right? I can answer you with this. Remember all that Final Fantasy stuff that everybody was asking from that state of play that they didn't show?
Yep.
You'll see it then.
I mean, listen, I don't doubt it. So Sony. We know how they do business.
Yep.
And we know that in the past, folks, like if you've been following baseball, and this is like watching sports, any chance Sony had to put the boot on the neck of Microsoft, they did it to great success, especially in the PlayStation 4 era. That room of success has not wreaked its ugly head because Microsoft is here to play for real. This is no longer, it's just Microsoft. They're not going to get involved. Game Pass, fodder. They're in this for real. And I think what you're seeing is Sony have no choice but to take their own knee, so to speak, because everyone knows here. I mean, we're not even being facetious. Sony has been lying not only to regulators, but they have done everything in their power to make themselves look like the victim here when they haven't, in fact, been the market leader for 20 plus years. I mean, there's no denying that they are the market leader. I don't think the show would have hurt them, to be honest with you, but apparently they did. And Microsoft is making some different moves in order to get this done. Like I said, second half of the show, we're going to be talking about the new information that comes the way of Reuters, or Reuters as it's known, regarding the 10-year deal that was publicly leaked to the New York Times. Right, it was Politico. Right, we've heard some things from them, and originally Hogue Law had reported that he thinks this might be the FTC kind of putting it out there that they want concessions or they're going to sue. But it turns out in his last video, which he posted yesterday, which was absolutely astounding, that he believes more and more that it wasn't the FTC that put this out there, that in fact it was Microsoft putting it out there to let people know that yes, they did offer this deal, and they are bringing this deal potentially along with some other concessions to the EU Commission in order to get the deal approved quicker through them, and then of course use what they have to say to then show the CMA in the UK as well as the FTC that, hey, listen, they agreed. It's hard that you guys can't agree where we are willing to do concessions. So it is going to be very, very interesting. Ultimately, folks, I've said this before, I do stand on this coin that the deal is going to be passed. It is not anti-consumer by a country mile, and there's no way that it's anti-competitive. Sony, like I said numerous times this week, is ranked 7th. PlayStation is ranked number 7th in the world for world brand recognition. Think about that for a second. This planet is pretty big, and if you're on the top 10 of most recognized brands, I think that's something to really shake a stick at. You know where Microsoft is? If you missed some of my earlier shows this week, Xbox specifically is ranked 56th. Think about that for a second. 56th versus 7th. And they're complaining why. But I want to bring Mav into the conversation. But Mav, before I do, I got to thank some of the super chats that have come in. And we got a big one to open up the show. A $20 bomb from Drawn TJ. He says this, folks. Hi, guys. Boom, keep up the great content. What do you think about the ABK deal? People are saying that it's going to be blocked. I think it's crazy. Need for Speed Unbound is making me mad. No cops in multiplayer. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing some great things. It's downloaded as we speak. I have to record some footage. I cannot wait to get into it. I don't think the deal is going to be blocked, but we're going to talk about the concessions on the second half of the show. Sith Lord, we were just talking about you, brother. Hopefully you are feeling better. Welcome. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, all hail King. It's an honor to have you here tonight. Indeed it is, but it's an honor to have you, my brother. And Gaming Forte, one of the best in the business. What's going on, my brother? He was an original panel member when we launched this show so many years ago. Shout out to Gaming Forte, our inside man when it comes to anything and everything GameStop. He drops a $5 super chat and says, I finally get to enjoy the show from the comfort of my couch. That's awesome. Glad to see the show is still going strong. Plus one more thing. Hey, King Boo Boo.
Hey, Forte.
Wow.
I love this. I love it. I love it. But listen, Matt, let's get your opinion on this. You've heard what King had to say. You've heard Everborn and the tinfoil hat scenario, and he might be onto something. I mean, listen, Microsoft is probably going to be there. Their big guns will not. Is this disappointing, or is this a smart tactic?
Well, I'll just say y'all are really killing my hype for the Game Awards right now. So I want to appreciate that, everybody. Because I don't watch it for the awards. Who does? We want to see the big announcements. We want to see Sony and Microsoft have big games shown there. We want to see third parties have big games shown as well. I think this is going to be a good show regardless. But man, it's been so when I look at the Game Awards, what my original expectations was kind of par for the course of what they've been doing the last couple of years, was show some of those games that they already had in the works. Like they showed Hellblade there, revealed it originally, then they showed it again at the Game Awards. I think Perfect Dark was the trailer was shown at the Game Awards as well. I don't know what the harm would be in showing new trailers or updated stuff for some of the games that are already announced that were already first party, right? Like if I'm Microsoft and you're trying to figure out what can you show there, you look at a Fable, a Perfect Dark, and Avowed is Obsidian, right? Games like that, I don't know why you couldn't do that. So if they don't show an update to one of these games that they revealed like 2 or 3 years ago, I will be a little disappointed, right? State of Decay 3, you could do that as well. Something. We need 2 games from Microsoft. If Sony doesn't show up as well without having any kind of show this year, besides their state of plays, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? They got to stop playing coy, right? Supposedly right now, they're sitting at the table negotiating this Call of Duty thing. That's what the latest report is.
Yes.
And if that is the case, which people that were always thinking this was going to be concessions, there's going to be potentially some things that Microsoft has to agree to, is always because of the way the regulators were all talking. It ended up all being about Call of Duty, right? So if they're sitting there talking, you remember it was like last week that the EU extended their deadline, right? So that usually happens when things are put on pause because there's like new information or something that they have to review. Now it comes out that they're sitting down talking to PlayStation and they're willing to offer these concessions. So I think that's one of the reasons that EU thing was actually extended, because I think right now they're in the meat of and the potatoes of what those concessions are going to be, how it's going to look, and what PlayStation is going to agree to. So they will remove their complaint against the deal and get this thing done. So if it's PlayStation and Microsoft negotiating and arguing about this, like, what is the harm in showing some of your already original first-party content at the Game Awards, right? It doesn't have to be Bethesda's ZeniMax stuff. It doesn't have to be anything related to any of the newest acquisitions, but you have a lot of first-party things that we haven't seen in forever now. And the Game Awards is the biggest stage in gaming. And when you also had, shout out to Everborn for being right all along this year. Again, I hate to say it because it sucked.
My man.
It has absolutely sucked that this year of news with gaming compared to the last couple years that we got used to. You know, I really feel like this year is important in a year where you had your E3 showcase and you decided to relegate it to games within the next 12 months, right? To not showcase stuff that's coming out maybe 2 or 3 years still in the future, right? And that would be those Perfect Darks, Fables, Avoweds, you know, Vertical Slice is something. I think would that be too much, guys? I mean,
so Mav, here's the thing. Like, I totally get it, but if we look at the way the deal is progressing, a lot of the big decision makers have deadlines that are between January and the end of March.
Yes. Yeah,
so
I get
why
you.
risk
I get you.
3
I know.
months? You know what I'm saying?
It sucks
Just
though.
to
I don't
be at
like
the show.
it, Everborn. I'm sick of this. I want to see the games.
Mav,
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you why right now. Why they're not able to just give you just a little bit of something. Right now, I'll show you right now in a second. Hold on.
I'm
you
waiting.
See this guy right here? You see this guy right here behind me? That's why. Because this guy, the moment that Phil Spencer
he's still crying, huh?
Interview, he's still crying. The moment that Phil Spencer says anything, this guy just goes crying to the CMA or to the EU.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see the Game Awards? Did you see how many games are coming? He has them on speed dial. This is your reason why right here when you're asking that question.
No, I get it.
You know,
said Jim Ryan on the phone like, ooh.
But it's like,
telling.
oh my God, we're a video game company that has video games. Shock to the world. Let's not show anything because of this ABK deal. You know what I mean? It's like
I give you a bigger conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
What if the 12 months thing was put in place just because of this deal?
That's how I think.
You know, it's funny.
Right. Originally,
everyone said that when we all watched the E3 together, and he's like, "No, this is the start of it." And like, "Oh, you're a lunatic."
Because look, when did they say the deal would close? By the end of fiscal
2023.
23, right? The end of fiscal 2023 is the first half of 2023.
Yep.
It lines up perfectly, so they just don't want to tell you nothing so they could do this deal. And I'm telling you, as soon as the deal is on solid footing, I guarantee you're going to get all these trailers and you're going to get a date instantly for Starfield and all that stuff as soon as the deal closes.
I want to touch on something else you said earlier, Everborn, about Sony and talking about Jim Ryan talking about Game Pass 29 million, right? And touting, we got to be worried about that because they're 29 million.
Yeah, they're also at 45.4 million.
But they're actually not even, because those are fake ass numbers that they
Yep.
put out.
Don't
there
worry
to
about that. Don't worry about
manipulate
that. We not
That's
snitching
what
over
I'm
here.
saying.
It's 46.
But Sony has been putting that out there, that they have this many PlayStation Plus subscribers to compete against Game Pass. But it's PS Plus Essentials, which was the same thing as PS Plus, which was the same thing that went against Xbox Live Gold.
Mav,
If you compare,
you make your bed and you lie in it.
if
They
you
said they got more, they got more.
the hypocrisy. If you compare Xbox Live Gold to and up, which is like Xbox Live Gold members, Game Pass, everything would be the same comparison as PS Plus members.
You're dealing with the
Yeah.
master of the dancing arts, guys. This guy can dance his way out of anything. Okay, and he's proving that.
It's
time
crazy.
and time again.
The day after they made the new PS Plus deal or whatever, which is PS Plus Essentials, is the same thing as PS Plus was to begin with. I already saw people in the PlayStation podcasting community already touting those numbers that PS Plus has more than Game Pass.
Yeah, well, they technically do if you roll in the numbers from PlayStation Now to the PS Plus thing.
How many subscribers of PlayStation actually subscribe to a service that gives them games and a subscription service?
Plus has 46 million, which is more than Game Pass 29 million. That's all I want to hear about the matter.
But if you add Xbox Live with Game Pass,
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Then the
that would be
numbers are going
comparison
to
to
be-
PS Plus.
it's going to be greater
Xbox
than
Live Gold is like
Yeah.
Bruno.
Xbox
we don't
Live
talk about that.
has always even though PlayStation has had the numbers on the hardware, Xbox Live Gold always had way more subscribers, because guess what? Xbox gamers play online.
Yeah, they had
Right?
to. So yeah.
So and the amount of users within Xbox, as it also goes into PC as well, right?
Yeah.
It has always been way higher in the active user base for paying subscriptions.
Didn't
period, right?
Microsoft just launch that initiative for the dead accounts to turn them off or something like that, so they're not shown as active accounts, but PlayStation is still showing dead accounts as active accounts?
Yeah, Microsoft's trying to they're actually actively getting rid of people that don't use it. They're cleaning up on that stuff because they actually had to, because of some kind of
it's the regulatory thing in Europe,
exactly,
right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they did that proactively, right? They
Yeah,
weren't-
Yes,
without
they did.
anybody, going in and telling them this is something that you had to do. If they noticed that you weren't using your Xbox account for, I think it was 30 days, and you were being charged, then they will send you an email. If you didn't respond to the email, then they will dead the account,
Right?
or dead the charge.
But they still have way more subscribers. Now, I'm not trying to. Hey, CMA, UK, EU, FTC, don't listen to me right now. You don't need to hear this, right? But it's always been the case. But so you can't this argument from PlayStation's always been about hardware, right? It's going to affect their hardware sales, right? Because their subscription, they're not even doing anything within their own ecosystem to really push their own subscription service too much, right? They're actually still bleeding subs. The last, even after the launch of their new subscription service, their sub count is going down, which is crazy, right?
Yeah,
so
they lost almost 2 million.
If they don't even care enough to put their games 3 or 6 months out into the service, then they can't complain about Game Pass, because Game Pass is far superior.
They don't want the subscription service to be successful during this particular time.
They want it to look like it's failing, so they can say, "Look, you see,
I get it.
We can't compete with this." Yes.
Yeah, it's just the hypocrisy from Sony, touting these fake numbers to the public, and then going around and then touting other numbers to the regulators is absolutely ludicrous, right? And I think that ultimately, between both companies, the games you've always had in your stable, without any of these new acquisitions and stuff, should be able to be showcased. And there's no harm or foul between either company for that. And if they don't, I will be highly disappointed.
You're gonna be
I will be.
disappointed.
I will be disappointed. I will
And
rage.
you
I will
will-
rage.
You're going to rage.
You will forgive them when they close the deal.
And
Yep.
I know maybe,
That's
but,
what I think. Yeah.
but I'm going to come after you, Everborn, if this happens. It's your fault.
Not a problem.
Well, listen. Let's bring in John Wolf. John, obviously, a lot of people didn't know this. He is very good friends with Jim Ryan, and he tried to console him, and he's still crying. It's crazy that he just will not stop crying. He will also not stop snitching, which is also a problem. The old snitches get stitches kind of a thing. He hasn't learned. I guess maybe because he has good security guards. But I don't know. All I can say is, all joking aside, will you be in Mav's camp with the disappointment if Microsoft basically shows up limp, so to speak, for the Game Awards?
If obviously it's Microsoft Legends,
they need some.
Come on, no, it's not gonna work.
They're gonna need some blue chews before that
Minecraft
show.
Legends.
Some blue chews or something.
Call
Seriously,
Pfizer.
Look, as gamers, this deal, because of the all the details and all the and just the game plan that both companies have to put in place, it's been entertaining for us, that follow the game industry, to kind of see the chess moves. But as a games fan, right, I was getting excited because of E3 and the typical Super Bowl like atmosphere of E3 and all that good stuff. It's a hit. It's been a hit this year. But the thing is that there's 3 things guaranteed, right? There's death, taxes, and Hellblade showing up at the Game Awards. Okay, those 3 things are guaranteed every year. All right, so I fully expect. I would be shocked if Xbox completely sat out the Game Awards completely. They have no games to show for as Game of the Year. They do have contenders for other categories and stuff like that. But the thing is that I understand that the deal right now is the most important thing at Camp Xbox, but they can't forget that they also have fans, and they need to at least throw a little bit of crumbs our way, and say, hey, here's something for you to get excited about. It's not going to be anything new and nothing Jim, Snitch, and Ryan can use against us. But here's how about if we give you the at least the release window for Hellblade, 2023, late 2023, 2024. Okay.
John, I got something for you. You. How about instead of a release date or a 16th trailer for Hellblade 2, they say we'd like to, here at the Game Awards, we'd like to announce that the EU has accepted our proposal and they are clearing this thing.
Oh my God,
and now
dude, that
all we
would
got to
break
deal
the
with
internet.
is the CMA and what you call it. That's what I want from the show.
Dude, even though Geoff is a big PlayStation guy, he would even love to be able to announce that on his show. Okay. Yeah. But honestly, I mean, if that happens, that'll be huge. But honestly, Xbox cannot sit out the Game Awards completely. They need to have something there, whether it's, like I said, Hellblade. Dude, it's gonna be there. Come on, guys, let's be real. It's gonna be there in some fashion. Brand new trailer showing off the combat. There's a lot of skeptical people. King is just laughing. King is. I'm setting people up for disappointment, huh?
Hope is a beautiful thing.
Well, I want to believe
everything alive.
I want to believe because it just makes sense from a logical standpoint, right? From a business standpoint, it's like, how can you just sit out? Like, that's like saying that you're one of these big companies like Coca-Cola and you're going to sit out the Super Bowl, no commercials for Coca-Cola. Come on, man, that's kind of weird.
Well, if
They're
you're under
buying
indictment,
Fanta.
if you're under indictment, I don't think you're going to be sticking your head out of anything.
Listen. Microsoft is a bigger company than Coca-Cola. That's the first thing.
I got you.
And the next thing is, think about this. And I get it. It's the Game Awards, but that's still the Keyleys, right? What if they have a show? Because even their show, their E3 show this year, you could tell they held a lot back with that whole 12 months.
Everything. So, they held everything back, in fact.
What if they actually have a show? This is the future of Xbox, and it's designed to go along with the roundtable after Activision is successfully.
They're going to do that for sure. They did that kind of with Bethesda when that was done,
right? But if that's going to happen in February, Marchish, why not just save it for that?
Wait to E3.
You know
what?
We'll
forgive them. You're saying this now.
It's
you
that
will not remember any of this if they close that deal and then give
I
you
get
a
you
piece of
guys.
it.
We'll remember the dark cloud of the 2022 Game Awards forever. If that,
Yeah.
that's
Not
happened.
me.
What's going to happen though? What's going to happen is we're going to end up getting Minecraft Legends, Fallout 76.
Tell it.
We're gonna get Elder Scrolls Online.
Yes.
Deathloop content. Every game that is on PlayStation from Microsoft.
And a Halo map.
Yeah.
If
I mean, the thing is that all I'm trying to say is don't expect, like, if you're expecting, I get what you guys are saying. If you're expecting E3 levels of announcements, you're going to be disappointed. I'm with you guys there. But where I'm not with you is that they're going to sit on the bench the whole game. They're going to go in for
Jordan is not playing, bro. you came out for nothing. you could have went to the bathroom. He's not showing up.
You know what? Again, the Game Awards, folks, is coming up. It's in just a little over a week away, right? So I think it's the 8th. Is that when it is? Tomorrow's the 1st. So we're just 8 or 9 days away. We're gonna learn quickly, but the way, listen again, folks. I just want the deal done, not because we've been talking about it for the entire 2022 campaign. No, I want it to be done so Microsoft can go take care of other business elsewhere with other developers and publishers and things of that nature. I want, but again, like I said, this another conversation that we're not going to have tonight that we started to have a couple of weeks ago that I'm very interested to get, and I think Kay Asante is going to be covering it on Saturday's Gaming Circle podcast, and I'm hoping that he does, is the ramifications for Sony. Like, the bridges that they are currently burning is not just Microsoft. They have taken the entire industry and put it under a microscope or a magnifying glass, if you will, for regulators around the world when it was normally being ignored. I mean, think about this. They got their $3.6 billion deal for Bungie approved as if I changed my socks. You know what I'm saying? It was done so quickly with no kickback whatsoever. And here we are. They're complaining about everyone, and they're the only one that is complaining. But Wandering Dutch, let's get your opinion. What are you expecting at the Game Awards? Where do you fall? Are you in the Everborn King camp, or are you on the Mav camp?
Kind of in between, but I don't think I don't personally think there's kind of any links between the two. I just think Sony have nothing to show. Next, nothing to show.
I love this guy. I love him.
You just made Jim cry again. He started crying again. Hold on.
I think Xbox themselves still have absolutely no idea how to organize next year. So I think there is going to be some small announcements. I Hellblade, I have to agree on. I think Hellblade is going to be one of those.
My man,
just do the hat trick. Do the hat trick because we've showed the announcements. We've showed the original gameplay. That game has just finished its final phase of mocap.
Yes,
it is pretty much on the boil. I don't think it at a push. Maybe he's not get more gameplay, but we might get it's a release date or a release window for next year. But then some smaller information about other titles, not big announcements. But I don't see PlayStation having a huge presence there. I don't see them doing massive things. Likely, mostly third-party announcements for the Game Awards. Big third-party announcements, but things that have no relation to first-party stuff at both Xbox or PlayStation. I see a lot of potential PlayStation exclusive agreements that PlayStation have in place, just ignoring PlayStation and announcing anyway, like we've seen very recently with a couple of games, where, like, i.e. Silent Hill, for instance, which is PlayStation exclusive, which I am pretty sure PlayStation did not want anybody to know about anytime soon, and Silent Hill just went, nah, but we want to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it. I think there's going to be a couple of those things where there's kind of exclusivity agreements on either side where these companies are going, no, we're going to talk about it. It's our game. Regardless of who we're exclusive for, we want to speak about this game. that might throw some wrenches in some works for with regards to regulators, but they're going to have to cross that path when they come to it. I still think there's going to be plenty of games for people to be excited about, but from a first-party perspective, I think it's going to be limited, but not for reasons of regulators. I think it's just going to be limited because both of them don't really have too much that they want to show right now or can show. Specifically Sony, who have yet to have a show at all this year. The only thing we actually know that we're working on across the board is the faction, Spider-Man and Wolverine. And that's it. And you're telling me they're holding back every one of their studios across the board? I somehow don't think so. I think even themselves as a as a platform holder going into the Christmas period, thankfully they've had God of War this year, but going into a brand new year with absolutely zero additional reasons to buy that platform. No reason at all to get a PlayStation next year other than games that came out
Spider-Man
this year.
So Dutch, what you're saying is that Jim is telling everybody, yo, how fast can you release some DLC for us? Is that what you're saying?
Or remasters of remakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
You gonna get
personally,
the Ragnarok remake next year?
Ragnarok PlayStation 5 Plus.
Well, you do know, Dutch, that Jim has been doubling down on the big budget items. So that means, no budget for the smaller, new IPs that was under Sean Layden type of thing. Like, stuff like Stray, you'll see that if they can go to indies and get that game on their platform, but it won't be theirs.
Yeah.
But you're right. There'll be remakes and remasters of games that they have. Last of Us 2, perhaps. And that might launch with fractions to boost those sales. Then you got the PC side, but Spider-Man is a large title for them next year, and they care about the holidays.
And we were joking about it, but the other month we seen that rumor that they're going to do a Horizon Forbidden West PS5 version. So
and they should. I mean, I didn't play the cross-gen title, and I will love a God of War Ragnarok PlayStation 5 only title, to be honest with you. Please show me the capabilities of said machine. I think they're in a weird position. I think their boss is capable of boosting numbers by looking at big budget things. But sometimes when your vision is only looking up at the stars, you fail to realize that there's the ants and the stuff on the ground. They have to take care of that stuff. And you might see at some point in time in his tenure, he hires somebody like a Sarah Bond type of person that can cultivate those little deals that can make their ecosystem something very decent. At the moment, it seems like they're lacking in that area, but
Hey, King,
they did that in PlayStation 4. They can fix it.
I was going to say that the main
isn't
issue for
Shuhei
me.
doing that?
You said, excuse me, sorry?
I said, isn't Shuhei Yoshida doing that?
No, he's not doing a good job at it. He's not.
I was going to say the issue PlayStation have got is they had him, and you've been right on this one, King. They had a man that was interested in making something of PlayStation and great and giving them great experiences and a great platform and a great community. And that man wasn't the man that was making the money.
Yep.
That was Sean Layden.
Yep.
They've got a man that's
like
making the
Sean.
money.
Sean's a good dude.
But the problem is the guy that's making the money.
He don't play games.
Is also the same guy that has took his eye off the game internally and focuses more on the competitors' actions than he does on his own team's actions.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. Because going forward, the more you focus on your competitors, you lose complete track of everything that you need to do in order to be successful. When you're focusing specifically on what your competitors are doing and nothing what you're doing.
What that turns you into is a reactionary person.
Yeah.
And not a proactive person. See, Phil is not a proactive, a reactionary person. He's a proactive person that is thinking ahead to attack, but he's also coming from behind.
Yeah.
You gave Jim, and he cleaned up Europe. He fixed up, he saw the mess and he fixed it. You gave Jim, he's at the top of the food chain. So all he can do is play defense. He's going to get so good at defense, he's going to forget offense. And then when you forget offense, you're going to get scored on, and you're not going to be able to keep up because Phil is going to do a well-balanced team.
Yeah.
It's just very simple.
And
All
I
I
think-
ever
Exactly what
said
we
was,
had, King. I was going to say it's exactly what we had with the 360 going to
Yes.
Xbox One. We had Xbox on the defense.
you know what the difference
because
is?
we forgot how
This
to do the
generation,
offense. Yeah.
this generation, and this is the only difference, they won't recover. They were able to recover with the PlayStation 4. It's going to be it. So I can't wait for the deal to go down so I can go bronze my PlayStation 5 and go pick up another one because it's over.
I want to make a point real fast, King, to your credit and to what Wandering Dutch are saying. If you want any confirmation that you guys are on the right track with your words, just take a look at this year and take a look at the success that Xbox has had as a brand and the sales that they're having and the success without launching, quote unquote, your AAA banger. That is a testament to the game plan that they have put in place for this generation. It's being carried, in my opinion, by the Series S. You couple that with Game Pass, it is a 1-2 punch that I don't even think Jim Ryan saw coming. They're hitting you across the head with value, and that is something that it doesn't matter what type of game Jim can put in front of the masses. If you're telling the masses to pay over $600 just to touch the game, and on the other side you have a system that's $250 as low as $199 with Game Pass, $9.99 per month, and it plays Call of Duty, it plays Fortnite, it plays all these mega multiplayer games. The consumer's going to have a lot to think about, and it's called their wallet. And I think that,
and that's before they get to the VR.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
my gosh.
And the thing
VOA.
is that the value proposition is what has accelerated the success for Xbox this generation. It's value, it's the choice. So I just wanted to tell you and Wandering Dutch, I completely agree with what you guys are saying on that front.
Well, look, at the end of the day, the Game Awards, it seems like the panel is split. Some people think that it's going to be a big nothing burger, and other people think that they still should show some of the stuff they've already put out there. Again, it's 8 days away when you count tomorrow because it's December 8th. It's a Thursday, like it normally is. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly is there. We know Sony isn't going to be there, and I think to whoever said it on the panel, Sony doesn't have anything, and they honestly they just don't. It's not that they're not going to have things in 2023. They are. We know a couple of them. A few console exclusives from Square. We know that Spider-Man 2 is going to be big, and it is going to be released. Factions is rumored to be releasing next year as well. So they do have some bullets in the chamber, but we're not going to know what those are going to be until maybe early or mid, maybe even June of 2023. Because quite frankly, we don't know what they're up to. They're the conundrum, if you will. But I do want to move on to the second topic, and this is the big one, folks. It was rumored, it was leaked that Microsoft at the beginning of November had offered Sony a 10-year deal. And if you listen to Hogue Law, he thinks that they did that knowing that Sony would not take it anyway. Some people like myself believe that it does really put Sony in an ugly light for regulators, because at that point, what else could you possibly want? You're not getting marketing rights after 2024. That's not going to happen because Microsoft is going to own it. And you know what? You at least will still have it on your platform. I don't see why you would be crying. But before I get into that, folks, I do have to catch up on some of the super chats. There's been quite a few of them since this topic has started. So let me just refresh my my page so I can read them all, make sure I don't miss anybody. Sir X-Men, good friend of the program, drops a $2 super chat and says Sony has awakened the behemoth. Deal with it, Sony. Indeed. Why so serious? Drops a $2 super chat and says, who's buying the Modern Warfare 2 PlayStation 4 bundle for $340? That
Come on,
would be
man.
nobody, folks, because, well, somehow or another, without marketing rights, the Series X combined with Modern Warfare pretty much won Black Friday. And I don't understand how they're going to sell a near $400 PlayStation 4. Hey, listen, if you want it, it's out there for you. DeAndre Banks drops a very generous $2 super chat and says Sony will regret going this hard in the future. I agree. I think that there are ramifications. I think what you're seeing with Jim Ryan and SIE is a scorched earth mentality. They don't care who they burn. And ultimately, they're going to burn themselves, folks. There is going to be a subset of people that are not going to care that they're the market leaders. They're not owed anything, folks. They're a business. And they have been a number one business in this industry for 2+ decades. Yes, can you tip your cap to them because they deliver on first-party games? Sure. But does that mean that they could do what they want when they want to do it? No. They are not allowed to be the big man on campus and F everyone else, and that is exactly what they're doing. And I hope that it does come back to bite them, because eventually someone is going to, quote-unquote, rat on Sony for doing something, and some regulatory eyes are going to jump in on them as well, and they're going to be, well, we kind of brought this on ourselves. Brett Bingham drops a $5 super chat and says, like I said before, Boom, Jim Ryan acting like a straight up Dale. And he has the clown. And obviously, if you don't know what he's talking about, he compares the Dales to the Karens of the world. For the male version, it's a Dale. So if your name is Dale, I apologize, but that's just what we're calling it. It is now the Dale. Thanks to Brett Bingham. And DeAndre Banks drops an additional $2 super chat and says, don't forget, $600 for PlayStation VR 2, no back compat. Nice. Yeah, dead on arrival for sure. But listen, folks, I got to go to the next story. Folks, this is a big one. We have a report that comes the way of VGC.com, which is Video Games Chronicles, one of my favorite sites to go to. And this was posted by Tom Ivan, one of the fantastic writers over there. And it says this in the headline: Microsoft is likely to offer up concessions soon to help gain EU approval for Activision deal, including a 10-year licensing deal to Sony for Call of Duty on PlayStation. And the report goes on to say that according to Reuters, a source familiar with the situation, Microsoft has Microsoft's sweeteners will consist mainly of a 10-year licensing deal to PlayStation maker Sony that obviously was leaked out earlier last week. And it says here, and it has a quote, folks, Sony, as the industry leader, says it's worried about Call of Duty, but we've said we're committed to making the same game available on the same day on both Xbox and PlayStation, a Microsoft spokesperson told Reuters. We want people to have more access to games, not less. And they go on to say that the commission is concerned that the proposed acquisition may reduce competition in the markets for the distribution of console and personal computers, PCs, video games, and for PC operating systems. That was an old report. But listen, folks, I'm going to go first to Pony Master 420. Because he might have to get on out of here towards the back end of this conversation. And Matt, I know you can't take your eyes off this footage. Buy, because this game is just...
Oh, it looks fantastic. I've been watching it for the last... I mean, this is great.
It's really good. It is basically Gears of War with Bulletstorm and a little bit of God of War in there, especially with how brutal it is. It is phenomenally good. Like, it is really, really good. But look, we got to get to you on this. A 10-year deal is something that has never been done in gaming history. It is a first for like many things Microsoft is currently doing with this deal. They are allowing unions into the gaming market or the game development community, which has never been done before. There are voice actor unions, but there are no development of games unions. That's something that Microsoft openly said we are not against and we will support. Obviously, that was a big deal coming out of the FTC and some of their concerns for some of the senators here in New York specifically. And they immediately teamed up with one of the biggest unions in the country. But this 10-year deal is basically letting it all out, if you will. I think that there are some camps that actually said that they want Microsoft to offer Sony that it goes into their service day and date. I would very much disagree with that. I think that a 10-year deal is more than enough if you're keeping it on your platform. I mean, I said this before and I'll say it again. If Sony doesn't put their own first-party games in day and date, why the F should Microsoft put theirs day and date? That doesn't even make any sense, and I don't think they would ask for it. But, Sony is a bunch of ballsy pricks, so who knows? What are your thoughts on the Reuters report of a 10-year deal? Now, I think what ultimately is happening here, Mag, is Microsoft has gone to the edge of madness with Sony, and they're just not willing to play ball. So now they have to go to the regulators that are going to be the ones to pass this deal. And apparently, out of the three, they think that they could make leadway with the EU, which to some people, including Hogue, thought that might be the more difficult one. What are your thoughts?
Right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to take 90 seconds because I actually didn't even get my bars off on the first topic. So the swing vote.
Did I miss you on that?
Yes, you did, but it's all good.
God. So you know what?
It's all good.
Talk on that.
I can speak fast.
Yeah.
Come on, Matt. Give me the swing vote, please.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Everborn and King are 100% correct. Now, Mav, I'm going to push back on you real quick.
Matt, could you say that one more time?
Yeah, King and Everborn are 100% correct. Now, I'm going to be real quick here, okay? So don't trip me up. Here we go. Mav, I'm going to disagree with you on this. I think that announcing or showing games that they've already shown before, it's going to be, in my opinion, redundant. And the second thing is they do, as Everborn said, they don't need the eyeballs and they don't need the attention. The regulators do not need to be reminded about the games that Microsoft already has coming up. So let's not remind them of all the awesomeness that they're about to come up with, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, let's go down the list here. Holding pattern, okay? The two companies are in a holding pattern now. You can call it a staring match, you can call it whatever the hell you want. All right. Microsoft obviously is going to be holding back. They're not going to be releasing games. They're not going to be talking about acquisitions. Again, for the same reasons. I don't have to go through it. You know what? I'll bring it up right now. You think about Goodfellas. You remember the scene in Goodfellas after they do the big heist and they go to the Christmas party and Robert De Niro's going, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What is this? What is this car? Get this out of here." He goes, "Didn't I tell you not to buy anything big? Didn't I tell you not to buy anything big?" And then he kicks all the guys out of the party. It's exactly for that reason. They know that the FBI's got their eyeballs on them right now because they just pulled off the biggest heist in history. So this is exactly what Microsoft is doing. They're about to pull off the biggest financial heist in history is about to go down with this. They're not going to be making any moves. Sony is also, for their own reasons, and obviously, granted reasons, they're going to be doing the exact same thing. Okay? They're going to make it look like poor me, look at me, that kind of thing, right? What do you got coming up? They should look at the year that they just had. So already their arguments are not looking good. All you have to look at is the last 12 months. You had a Horizon Forbidden West, Game of the Year contender. God of War Ragnarok, Game of the Year contender. They had Gran Turismo, not so great, but it still came out. They have Stray that they utilized as a sort of an exclusive. Game of the Year contender. Okay, so they have all these things. What do you got coming up? They got Spider-Man 2 is going to be a big game. I mean, you got Peter Parker and you got Miles Morales in there. Big game and possibly Venom, right? You've got Wolverine coming up. They're not going to show you any of this. Have you guys heard of any other games coming out for the PlayStation? No, there's nothing. There are a couple of third-party deals. One of them kind of fell through with the Knights of the Old Republic. We don't even know. And then the other thing is basically they're not really showing much marketing, the third-party marketing. They're showing the COD marketing, but even that seems to be somewhat muted compared to how brash and upfront they've been about it before. So anyways, like I said, I'm not going to get into it too deep. I just wanted to say that I wanted to agree with them. Look at the situation. Now, again, I wanted to back up about Microsoft. The reason why, look at the Black Friday deals. Microsoft dominated in actually North America on the hardware sales during Black Friday. They had nothing to sell.
Yeah.
They had
Crazy.
nothing to sell, but they did incredibly well. Imagine if they had all these other big titles or whatever coming up. It's going to happen. And when that knockout punch comes, it is going to hit hard.
Yeah.
But they're holding that punch back right now. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out of my system. Just say, oh, and another thing, by the way, the Game Awards, I agree. There's one thing Mav is saying, like, I'm not watching it for the Game Awards. You're watching it for the announcements, which are probably going to be a reason why I'm not going to really watch it. That's like your dad in the 80s saying that the reason why he reads Penthouse is because he's reading the articles. Okay. We know that that's not the case. We're there to watch the trailers. So if things are going to be muted this year, I'm probably going to hold off because I just want to know who wins Game of the Year. Is it going to be Elden Ring or God of War? Right. So that's going to be the big controversy. Now, on to this topic. Here's the thing. I've been sorry, thank you, King. Thank you. So here's the thing. You should see me when I'm working. My God, I talk like that all day. Anyways, here's the thing. I've said this from the beginning. Why bother making the games exclusive and riling up the competition and the regulators? What is the point of antagonizing these people when you can just get the price alone should sell the product to the people? The people are not stupid, as like some people like to call us, the great unwashed. That's what they call the general public, right? They're not stupid. And what a time to be advertising price. Okay? This is the time when there is there are global shortages across this planet right now. There are supply chain issues across this planet. It's taken me 6-7 months to get a car. Well, the cars I'm getting. You know what I'm saying? But this didn't happen before, but it is now. People aren't making money. We're about to face, I don't care what anybody says, but I've spoken to a lot of financial analysts for not Canada, North America, saying that 2023 is going to be one of the worst recorded years in history.
Yep.
For finances. What a time to advertise $15 a month over $100 for Call of Duty. What a time for that to happen. The thing is, and here's the other interesting thing. It's not like the product's different. When you get Call of Duty on Xbox for $15 a month versus $100 on the PlayStation, you're not getting a different quality game. You're getting the exact same game. So the thing is, what exactly are you worrying about? Nothing. What you could do, you keep the people who want to stay on the PlayStation, you keep them over there, and they're going to still play there. But here's the thing. Microsoft is still going to collect their 30% from Sony. And then the marketing rights are still going to go to Xbox. And then the rest of the people are going to be playing it on PC or they're going to be playing it on Xbox. Right? So therefore, it's win, win, and win. There is no lose in this situation, no matter which way you look at it. Whether they give Sony 10 years, which I agree with King, by the way, and every day that passes, he's more and more correct that there will not be a PlayStation 6. I don't even know what the hell's coming up at the end of this generation. Like after Spider-Man, they've announced nothing. You know what? I mean, they say Naughty Dog's working on some like sci-fi game. Okay, that's fine. What else?
12 microtransaction hellscape services.
Right, exactly. Mobile games, right, with better graphics. That's basically what's going on. And then Destiny updates for Forte. Forte, I hope you're still listening. The game sucks. Anyways, sorry, I'm just kidding. I know King's a big advocate. I bust Forte's nuts about it. Anyways, let's be serious. Here's the thing. Okay, and like I said, you're advertising the price, and that's something that Sony has been afraid of since day one. They're not afraid of the game going exclusive. They're not afraid of it. They don't like the idea that they're going to be charging X amount of dollars for, at least for us up here, is almost $100 for Call of Duty, or you're going to do that $15. Of course, people are going to pay, act with their wallet. Okay, because at the end of the day, when people don't have money and they still want to have the hobby, or they still want something for their kids, they're going to follow where the cheaper product is, even when the product is exactly the same. You are not getting a lesser product. And that's something that Sony's been afraid of. They're afraid of Game Pass. They're not afraid of the exclusivity. That's what it all boils down to. So I say go for it. Give them 10 years. I don't think PlayStation will be here in 10 years. I think it'll be a third-party developer by that point, and they're going to be making fantastic games for other consoles.
I think
it's going to be
one thing, and I was really good the whole time. Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer, in his infinite wisdom, said, Call of Duty will be on PlayStation as long as there's a PlayStation.
As long as they're a PlayStation. I read that about 8 times. Thank you, King. I read about it about 8 times when he said that. The way he said that was well, we already know. We already know. And read between the lines, folks. You don't even have to. The billboard's right behind Phil in neon letters. You know exactly what that means. Okay. Anyways, the point is that at least for the time being, before it becomes Apple and Xbox, okay, those are going to be the two consoles of the future, and Nintendo. And then Sony's going to be an amazing third-party developer. By the way, Apple's actively looking to purchase large portions of Disney right now. You don't think that they're looking at Sony right now? Of course they are.
Netflix.
So, there's that too, right? So the players are going to change. And if people think that that's crazy, don't think it's crazy. Because if anybody who grew up in the 80s and 90s knew that it wasn't Nintendo and Sega, okay, there was also Neo Geo, there was also TurboGrafx, there was all these other companies that were in there. Okay, and guess what? They're all gone except for Nintendo. Yeah. All right, so the point is, things change, things evolve, things are never forever. Nothing is forever. Okay, so the point is that that's the possibility. Anyway, the thing is, give them a contract for as long as the PlayStation exists. Let them play. Let them do not antagonize the customers. Do not antagonize the regulators. I just say, let it happen the way it is. That's a concession that I have no issue with, because the people will follow the superior service.
Wait,
that's what it all boils down to.
So what you're saying is, in what is it called? In a capitalistic environment, the product or the company with the best competitive price and availability should be able to dominate the ones that can't keep pace?
Correctamundo. And the funny thing is, the product is exactly the same. That's the key to it all. The key to it all is that if you look at some products, like for example, I'll give you a prime example here. If you take a movie that is like a Hollywood movie that is made specifically for the theater, you could tell the quality difference between that and a Netflix made movie.
Yes.
Even if that Netflix made movie has a big actor in it. Okay, or an Amazon Prime movie or something like that. All those movies like that one I liked. Anyways,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, right? The quality is just slightly. You could tell. You're not fooled.
Right.
You could see the difference. You're like, that looks like a Netflix movie. It's just snipped just enough that it wouldn't make that cut of like $150 million, $200 million budget film. Right. This is not the case. This may be the first time in history where it's not really the case. Because, what's happening is that $200 million game that's going on PlayStation, that same $200 million game is going on Game Pass. Yep. That is unprecedented. There is no cut in quality.
I can give you a very scenario that's going to hit home. During the pandemic, people weren't able to go to the movies, but some movie theaters was open, and you were able to see that movie in the movie theaters, or you were able to stream it at home.
Right.
It got to the point where the same thing that you were able to see at the movie theater, you were getting at home same day. And by and large, the populace chose the stay-at-home product. And when everybody was able to go back, the movie theaters still haven't been able to recover.
So, I'm one of them. I'd rather stay home and watch the movie.
I don't want to go to the movie theater. I'm tired of people talking. Yep. I just say this to say, when that same product that they're bickering over right now, that y'all hear us talking about, is Call of Duty, and that $100 product is available on that platform, and it's the same product that's available for $15.
Yep.
You're going to take that $100 and say, here.
Yeah.
Or are you going to just let that charge go through and you get the rest of your 1,000 games along with that game that you were going, that one game for $100? It's not going to happen. And inevitable, you will die and go away.
I mean, right now, King, 6 months of Game Pass, right, is equivalent to what, right? $90.
It's basically the price of one game.
Yep, pretty much.
So, like for two games, and especially up here, for 2 games that I could purchase for the entire year for the PS5, that pays for my entire year of Game Pass, right? And then very soon, very soon when that family plan comes in, I won't be paying for 2 Game Pass subscriptions in my house because I got 3 different people utilizing it, right?
And you'll be
So
family plan.
Yeah, so there you go. So I'd use the family plan. Now, the other thing, the last thing I'm going to say before I pass off the mic is that it's not just that. Like, you're going to look at the price, but here's the thing. Microsoft has already covered another base, okay, which we've also discussed many times before, of the accessibility of Game Pass.
Yes.
It's not just accessible on one single box. Whereas that's the problem with PlayStation, is that the only place you can access PlayStation is on PlayStation.
Yo.
I mean, except for the handful of sprinklings that they put on PC. But other than that, what's that, like 3 games? Like, give me a break.
Mac, let me tell you something. The other day, I was playing Vampire Survivor, right? And my wife was like, yo, I got to go over to her friend's house to pick up over her lamination machine, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, right now, I'm playing this game. She's like, well, I got to go. I'm like, all right. So I shut the game off. And she goes, and I'm parked outside, and she goes inside. And I pull up my phone.
There you go.
And I'm
Touch
sitting
controls,
there,
brother. Touch controls.
Survivor
There
on
you go.
my phone. And she got in the car, and she said, okay, let's go. And it was probably like after an hour. She said, what were you doing? Playing the game inside the house. She said, what, the Xbox game? I said, yeah, I just logged in and played my game. She said, that's crazy.
Boom, didn't you just do the same thing at Thanksgiving, if I saw correctly?
I was at my sister-in-law's house. We were having dinner,
yeah.
and I got my hands on the Logitech G Cloud, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and I was rocking out to Vampire Survivors for like 2 hours, dude, and it was as if I was playing on my console.
It's the
granted,
exact
it
same
is an
thing.
8-bit
Let's say you're
game.
let's say you're a PlayStation 5 owner and you don't want to invest in the console. You could still be in Game Pass and play all those games and play whatever game and Call of Duty and whatever the hell else you want to play. You could do all that without having to purchase the console. So therefore, you've supplemented this. Actually, this benefits Sony as well, because if you're not paying $100 for that one game for Call of Duty or whatever, and you're paying $15 to get it, that frees up some money that you may be able to pick up a game on discount or whatever, or even on a release date for PlayStation, because it gives a little bit more accessible income in the long run. So this is like I said, a win, win, and a win.
If somebody saves you money, you're gonna go spend that money someplace else, or you more inclined to turn around and be like, here's a tip. Hey man,
right?
That's what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that you guys are on a good path here, and I'll add one more thing to the conversation, Mag. How about
I'm done. So you go ahead.
How about Microsoft? How about kudos to Phil for figuring out a way to even make money when Sony makes a sale? How about that?
That's what I'm talking about.
How about that, right? How about every single time that somebody purchases Call of Duty or a skin or a new gun or whatever, a blueprint, the money's
30% goes to Microsoft.
Hey, King, remember this, and Wolf, listen to this. You remember the ending? I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but you remember the end of Justice League?
Yes.
When Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne are standing there, and Clark says to Bruce, "Yeah, you know the saying. You remember that?
Yeah.
How did you get my mom's house back? I bought the bank. There it is. That's the line of the generation.
Instead of one of the fastest men on the planet, strongest man on the planet, just build her a house someplace. Oh no, you have to wait for the guy with the money to go by. Anyway, yeah.
But I mean, that's really
that.
it.
Yeah, right.
You know, why play the game when you can own it?
I'm just saying, what's going to happen is going to happen because of financial reasons. And what you just said is absolutely right. Big bank is going to eat little bank because nobody wants to spend this.
Yeah. No, you listen, you know what? King, let's bring you in on the conversation. I have a couple of quotes. I literally, what I did is while everyone was talking, I went to Reuters.com, Reuters as it's known, and I pulled a couple of quotes that I think are incredibly important to the conversation. And they say this: the deadline for the European Commission, which is investigating the deal, is set to have a formal list of competition concerns known as a statement of objection as soon as in January. Offering remedies before such a document is issued could shorten the regulatory process. And these are quotes directly from someone aware of the situation. Ultimately, such a move could secure an early clearance for the European Commission and subsequently be used by the parties before other antitrust agencies. And this comes the way of Stephanie Dionette, a partner at the law firm of McDermott, Will, and Emery. I believe those are the ones that are potentially representing Sony. And
Right.
it goes on to say, however, it remains to be seen whether the active complaints will validate such concessions, in particular in the terms of scope, and if the behavioral remedies will also be accepted by the CMA and the FTC. I mean, my thoughts to you is 10 years is a lot to offer. And I know Microsoft wants to get this done. Do you see any other concessions being made other than, hey, we're going to give them Call of Duty for 10 years? Could they possibly say, yeah, we'll put it into their service? I don't think that they would do that personally.
Sony doesn't care for that.
Yeah.
Sony see, you got to look at how everything is being played out in front of you. Microsoft is the first ones to do this internet. Microsoft is the first ones to force you to have this Ethernet. Microsoft is the first ones to force you to have a hard drive. Microsoft was pushing you into the future, right? Sony still goes by hardware sales.
Yep.
So this is their main concern. You got to look at their main concern. Microsoft's main concern is engagement. So now you can look at how they formulate their plans of attack. Sony, if you looked at all these things, you started seeing all these people in the stores. You're like, wow, they got PlayStations available for Black Friday. And then you start seeing they're in the stores right now. You can see it, right? Because they are still going by old metrics and winning the holidays. It's like somebody just woke up from a coma and they go into a rotary phone. They're looking for a rotary phone. You're out of touch. Everything now is engagement. Everything now is views. How many butts can you keep in the seats that they're already in? Not bring them to your establishment, but have them in those seats. Microsoft is going to give them all the stuff that leans heavily into what their interest lies. Oh, you want parity because the console is underpowered compared to the higher powered X. Cool. We won't do anything that's going to make this version superior to your version. There'll be parity. Oh, correct. You want 10 years? I told you guys this console generation was going to last 10 years anyway. So it would be funny, right? If they said, oh, we give you 15 years. They're not. It's not. 10 years. You won't be around for the next. You can't survive this. The reason why Jim said they can't make a game that can compete with that, and they showed EA's version of Battlefield to say this is a failing product that is the same type of product that came out and they used to compete, and Battlefield just can't keep up. We won't be able to do it. Is because Jim is looking at the big budget stuff. He's not looking at the little stuff, the ground roots growing stuff.
Hey, but King,
yes.
Let me ask you a question. He said that about Battlefield,
right?
From EA.
He didn't say that about Fortnite.
And he also, even if you're talking about EA, he why didn't he bring up Apex?
He's not going to say those numbers.
Oh, because he thinks they're stupid. Okay.
No, it's not that. It's where you're willing to put the effort. Right? He sees big budget. Remember, again, his thing is the big splash. Call of Duty is the big splash. Every year he doesn't have to work hard. The checks come in. Good. You keep that. What else do you want? Oh, well, when you do this, what about all the other games, the mainstay games? You get those. Okay. New IPs, no. Not inside Game Pass, no. You won't be able to dictate where the games go and when they launch. You won't have that level of control. All they want is Call of Duty there. They don't want it to seem like their fan base, their hardware sales is going to be stifled in any form of fashion. They're going to get those concessions, and that's going to happen. And I think that's going to happen before anybody even says, this has to happen. Microsoft is willing to give that up. That first 3 years, test the water, lowball them. 7. All right, 10. The regulators are like, what the hell do you want from these guys? 10 years? That's unheard of.
Yeah, indeed.
You forced them in a corner to have them make a decision, because if they leave it to the regulators and the regulators said, I think 7 was a better deal, Jim going to be like, oh, please, wait a second, time out. Give me 10.
Well, King, here's the even bigger part of that chess move with that 10 years, right?
Right.
So you making up all this noise, hooting and hollering and doing all of this, right?
Yes.
And this is an existential crisis, according to you, right? You cannot live without this. You face foreclosure, right? If you don't have this, right? Yeah. And then if you actually faced foreclosure, you cannot say no to a 10-year deal.
Right.
Right. So then the regulators have to look at it like, wait a minute. You said you couldn't live without this, and they're giving it to you for 10 years and you don't want it? Seems like you're gambling here. Right?
Well, it seems like they might be trying to use regulators to their advantage.
They're supposed to.
Yeah.
This is business.
As they should. I don't blame them. We're just making fun of them.
Right. Yeah. I'm just saying. All this stuff is supposed to happen. There's a lot of guys out there worried. You know, I get a lot of DMs. Yeah, I don't think the deal is going to go through. The King, I'm so afraid. Afraid of what? Like, you got money on the line here?
This is so true, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, Microsoft told everyone in the beginning this is going to take about 18 months.
Yep.
Stop acting like Jim. King, tell those people, stop acting like Jim.
No, but they said this, right? And the whole funny thing with this 10-year offer, what you talk about with the low ball, everybody thinks like Microsoft is under pressure here. Of everything going on with this deal, they've said the same thing they've said from day one. Call of Duty is going to be on PlayStation. We put it in writing.
Right.
They don't ask us for nothing else because you're not getting it. You want Call of Duty on PlayStation. That's what we're going to do. Has that message changed since January 18th of this year?
Nope. No.
So no one's pushing Microsoft in any corner for anything. At least it seems to me, because every way that they said this was going to play out, it is playing out.
And yeah. King, and do we really think that Jim Ryan's not going to go, once the deal closes, he's going to go crying to EA to get Battlefield for exclusive marketing rights? Come on, man. They burned
that bridge.
He's
yeah,
going
I don't
to
think
go,
so now.
He's going to go fund them.
Well, that's true. Then money will talk over it,
You see, the smart gamble then is to make sure, and they've been doing it, and they've been doing it very successfully. Here's some money. When it comes out, it comes here. At that point in time, that gamble is a poor man's bet. Is no matter what you do to Battlefield, once that game is inside Game Pass, it is an absolute wrap. Call of Duty is going to slay that dragon all by itself. You're not even talking about the myriad of other games that is going to launch through that one game. And Jim says it right, because Jim is a money man. He's a businessman. He's sitting there looking at the business, and he's like, this ain't gonna go well. And he probably looking at his golden parachute. If I secure this deal, how do I exit out? Because once he secures okay, we got the concessions, we got this in place. He comes through looking like the conquering giant. Yeah, snitch. I don't care. I got Call of Duty for us for 10 years. and then you're gonna start seeing him stepping slowly away from the flames.
You say he's gonna pull a Bob Iger and step away right as the company's going through hard times and the T virus,
and then show up like the show up like the Shining Knight
when you
to fix all the
not
problems
gonna
he
go
created.
He's not. You ain't gonna see him again. He's gonna be like Shane, come back,
He's gonna
Shane.
do the moonwalk. He's gonna moonwalk out of there.
Bye.
You know, in regards to what
He's
you
not
said,
gonna
King,
be in that
about,
burning house.
Sony investing into a third-party game. If I read correctly, did they give 150 developers from some of the Sony studios to help with Callisto Protocol to help get the game out? And there you go. And you know what it did? I'm buying that game on the PlayStation 5. You know why? Because I heard that all these extra features on the DualSense, the 3D audio, and all that stuff that's available on the PlayStation is not available on the Xbox version.
You know,
They also bought Bungie
that's just
as well. You know what I mean? So they have a big first-person shooter right now. They just aren't putting it in their service for whatever reason.
Oh, they won't do it.
It's crazy. It's
But the
crazy
next
that
game-
was in Game Pass.
And
now that
next
Sony
game
owns it, it was
massive
not
will be.
PS Plus. It's like insane.
They got a plan for that. I think it's going to be another couple of years, Mav. I think that they're going to make a move on that soon. Have you noticed how quiet Bungie's been since they got bought?
They're working on massive.
Yeah.
The only reason that Jim can go around with this scorched earth approach that they've taken to try to block this deal is because they're the market leader. That's the only reason why.
Yep.
So
100%.
the this attitude that they've had, that they're all almighty, that they're the only thing that matters in gaming, I think that's what's really rubbed us fans the wrong way. And it's true. I mean, everybody in the industry has to be kind of like looking at Jim like, dude, really? Like, what's wrong with this pompous ass guy? Like, you know, he comes out here saying all these things, putting down his own devs, like his own team, right? I understand that you're trying to get the deal blocked under all circumstances, but I'm sorry, you don't put down your own people. Not that way. You know what I'm saying? So,
but John, here's the thing. Like, if he's the guy where he lost the COD deal or lost COD in general on his watch, like, he's finished, right? So you know, I get it, and it's like hilarious to watch it all play out. But you have to understand that this is what they have to do, right? Like, King just laid out what they're facing. Like, we think it's a joke that they're like facing insolvency, but it can happen, right? Yeah. So you can't be the one who lost the ship. This is the classic story of, you know, wealthy great parents and then the screw up kids who go and blow the fortune,
blow the cash,
right? So, like, you know, this is all business, and we shouldn't, or I don't want to tell everybody what to do, but I try not to try to assign any morality to it. It's all a chess game. And Sony, again, admittedly, is saying some of the most ridiculous things. So all we can do is laugh at them. But in terms of like what they should say, and they should have some sort of moral high ground,
I get it. I get it, Everborn. I get that. But dude, there comes a certain time where, you know, the integrity kind of has to come in. And as a leader, like when 343 was down and out, and questions were being asked to Phil, even though the dude knew that 343 was struggling, you never heard that man one time say, hey, you know what? This team's not good enough. I'm going to have to clean house here. There's just, I get it. I get what you guys are saying, and I agree with you. But where I disagree with you is that as the face of SIE, it's just to say that we don't have another team that can make a game like Call of Duty after you have, you know, games like God of War, Last of Us, after your teams have produced some of the biggest games of all time in gaming that have revolutionized, you know, that genre, right? For that to come out of his mouth, I think it speaks volumes. And I think that you know, people hear us like talk, and a lot of people can be saying, oh, you guys are overreacting, Sony's going to be just fine, this isn't going to change anything. I disagree. I think that this is going to ruffle the feathers of a lot of people in the industry, and a lot of people like Boom has said on other shows, who knows if they've called Jim on the side and they're like, Jim, like, what are you doing, brother? Like, Wolf,
I challenge you in this aspect, right? What was the game? The motorcycle zombie game, Days Gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Days Gone did pretty decent, right?
Yeah.
Did pretty decent. What did he say? It was a flop.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. That's true.
And he decided to big up another studio that did the same exact numbers. I thought that was the same day Jim lost faith the team lost faith in Jim.
I'd
Jim
agree.
plays big budget. And that's the only thing that plays in his court. Now, the only reason why I'm saying this, because what you're saying is absolutely, completely, 100% valid, right? And I do believe in every corners of Sony, if it ain't big budget, we don't matter. Because they're taking teams from smaller projects and saying, hey, go work on this Last of Us. How does that make that team feel, right? But to get over to how a different boss runs his ship, from the top down to the bottom, everyone is given respect. If your team is messing up, we all were screaming 3-4-3. I was the last tent flagpole holding on. And when it did come out, and they still gave every individual that left respect and still didn't point fingers. They lost tons of money.
They didn't pull a Square Enix.
Not at all. They lost a ton of money on marketing, on game packaging, on shipment deals and dates. They could have threw anybody under the bus, but didn't. How much respect does that boss have from the top to the bottom compared to the other side of the fence? And that's
all
where
I'm saying.
your answer lies.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Well, here's another thing, like, just to make us all feel a little bit old, I think. I think the real fear here is that Sony has been so successful because, you know, they've built their entire brand on kind of making games for us, you know, the 40-something-year-olds that enjoy the single-player experience, long attention span, deal with a story. But when you think about it, what their claim to fame speaks to today and the past. But if you look at where the industry's going and what our kids are playing, how many of those games are made by Sony? Because I can tell you my kids are playing Minecraft. I can tell you my kids are playing Sea of Thieves. I can tell you that there's a lot of, I can't keep up in COD anymore when we're talking about multiplayer and things like that. So Sony has not really invested in, let's call it the next generation of gamers. Not really. And I think they're seeing that big picture. They're speaking to us, but we are all going to age out of this, or we're gonna, you know, we're all gonna live to be 90, and we're gonna figure out a cure for death before we get there. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, in terms of speaking to the next generation of gamers, I don't know that Sony's doing that. And if you want to talk about when you're a billion-dollar company, you have to have that long view, that 10-year, 20-year view. And I don't see it. And I think that's why you see this overcorrection of them so scared to lose COD, and then they're working on 12 service-based games and all those other things.
Well,
right? Because that's where the industry's going.
To say this, I think their most successful generation, as far as total from beginning to the end of that generation, the PlayStation 4, garnered a ton of new Sony fan base. We've never seen a Sony fan base this vocal, this defiant, this belligerent, and this toxic. And that leads to this generation. So I believe they have a good 5 to 10 years of this generation to cultivate that fan base, to, if they're going to make it to the next generation as an app, as a device, or whatever it may be. I think this generation believes in this God of War, believes in Horizon. And don't forget, Horizon was not made under this leadership. That's why it's still here, because it wouldn't have been made. Last of Us, those games will stand the test of time. No matter how many times they make it, you know, I think they have a chance, but they have to grab the chance with different leadership in order to cultivate new IPs. I don't believe it can happen because I don't believe the faith is at the top, and I don't believe the development team has the I'm not going to say the cojones. It's just they don't have the belief that their pitch is going to make it across the board.
Yep.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, good stuff. Everborn, quickly. What are your thoughts on the 10? What do they do? Do they offer anything else?
No, they don't.
Past 10 years.
They don't.
Why do you think that?
And they because again, they're not playing here. Don't let the whole nice words fool you. The only thing they said that they were going to offer from the very beginning is keeping COD on PlayStation. That's all they're offering. That's all they will get. And I think if this ever goes to court, they may not even have to offer that, but they don't want to go that far because they have very good relationships around the world, and it's just not gonna look good. Now, if that article that you sourced, the Seeking Alpha article, which, by the way, if you don't have a subscription to Seeking Alpha, you can get it from the Stocks app from Apple. It'll just show it to you. So if you follow Activision or Microsoft, these articles will come to you. You can just read it through that, just so everybody can read that. But anyway, Microsoft actually met with Sony over the weekend, according to that article, to see what could be done, to see anything if they could bring them on board. Because Microsoft's entire strategy since the beginning of this thing is say, who are our biggest detractors? Let's bring them into the fold, right? So when Elizabeth Warren and those unions had issues with the deal and they tried to go to the FTC, Microsoft met with the CWA, brought them in, and now the CMA is speaking on their behalf. They wanted to bring Sony along with the deal, but for everything we talked about before, Sony feels like it can't agree, because if it takes a 10-year deal, then they're tacitly agreeing and saying that the deal should go through. So for now, at least, Sony has been trying to play it by ear to see how much they can get regulators to give them. Now, I had listened to one of the EU regulators who had joined a podcast where it was all in Italian, so I had to use YouTube subtitles. But they said, and this was about a month ago, if Microsoft, gives us whatever assurances we need, then the deal goes through. They literally said that, and that person works for the EU Commission, right? And I think phase 2 of the CMA investigation is going to show, because now they're looking at numbers, right? And if you look at Sony's response, it was 22 pages with 4 pages redacted. If you look at Microsoft's response, it's full of charts, it's full of numbers, it's 111 pages.
Yep.
Right? Because and they're like the CMA, I know they say there's not a lot of recourse if the CMA decides something, but the CMA actually has rules on their own books where they have to meet certain thresholds. Excuse me, and metrics before they can take any kind of action. And I know people like to bring up the Facebook within deal. I know people like to bring up the Giphy deal. The thing to consider with Facebook and regulators is that Facebook owns most of the social media market, like over 60%, right? So when Facebook making an acquisition in a social media based market is not the same as Microsoft buying Activision, because Giphy is one of 3 GIF providers, right? And Facebook was already the number 1 social media if you put all their things together, right? And then, Facebook owns the lion's share of VR. So when they buy the largest fitness VR app maker, that is a bigger deal than what we are talking about here. So we cannot, I understand that people try to use them as precursors, but we can't really do that. So to wrap this up, I think what Microsoft and Sony are discussing now are the terms of marketing going forward, right? All that we have exclusive, you get early access demo and you get these weapons or you get, that's dead. Forget about it, right? But the question is, the reason Sony is fighting for this so hard is because they know, as far as casuals are concerned, many casuals just associate COD with PlayStation. A lot of casuals think that COD is
100%.
exclusive to PlayStation, and that is because of that marketing deal, and Sony knows how important that is. So the question is, going forward, we know that the game will be in Game Pass. That's a non-starter. Microsoft will laugh Sony out of the office the way Nintendo laughed Microsoft out of the office when they tried to buy them. If they try to say, we want this in PlayStation Plus, or you can't put it in Game Pass, right? And again, they don't have to please Sony. They need to please regulators. But to get Sony to stop complaining, I think the question is, and this is always what Sony wanted, can you still mention us when you do your COD commercials? This is like in Game Pass, but in small font, also on PlayStation.
Call of
That's all
Duty
they
didn't
want.
even mention PlayStation in their commercials this year, though.
Right, but again, they still have like different things they can do, like putting COD on the box. And
Can you please say that you're on a box, please?
Yes, right, right. So this is the thing that I think Sony wants, because if once it takes hold, and it will take hold, because, and this is the genius of keeping it on PlayStation, every time a casual has to buy COD for $70 or like $300 in Canada, and then they also know from the commercials available, not for free, but you know what I'm saying, for free and available at no extra cost in Game Pass, along with 500 other games or 1,000 other games, right? Like that. And this is before we get to the all access program where you're paying $24 a month. Forget about all of that. So again, it's not even really a decision. You're not going to change the hardcores from PlayStation. Sure, they're going to stay there all day. But the casuals who don't care about this stuff that we do, it's not a decision. It might as well be exclusive to Xbox, and they know that. So instead of having it be a jarring, I'm taking this from you, hold this for a couple of years. People are gonna associate this with us, and after those years pass, we make that decision then. And by the time all those years pass, all the money we made from selling it on PlayStation will pay for this deal. So the Sony money is gonna fund it being in Game Pass. Anyway, I think it's really a matter of marketing now, and I do think starting next month, which is tomorrow, the news about this deal is going to come faster, more frequent, and it's going to be more impactful. And I want you to think about this. New Zealand delayed their decision until this month, right? So we should be hearing about New Zealand's decision in a couple of weeks now, or sometime next week, right? Australia, they put their decision on hold pending more information. I guarantee you we're going to hear about that in the next couple of weeks also. We already see that Serbia has already approved this thing. And for anyone who's keeping count, everyone who has investigated this thing, gone to their in-depth phase 2, and has completed their investigation, has found that Microsoft does not need to offer any concessions. Everyone that has concluded their investigation with the numbers says there's no concessions needed, right? So we are in the middle of the fog of war. So we all think like, oh my God, I can't see what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. Microsoft told you 18 months. You don't need to worry until 18 months pass and the deal's not done, right? And that's really all this is. So if the EU goes early, remember, the CMA's initial phase 2, their findings happen in January. So at the top of next year, they're going to put out and they're going to say, this is what we found and this is what we want in order to make the deal go through or not, right? And then Microsoft has 2 months to negotiate that if they don't already have an offer on the table. And if you read the CMA's complaints, all they care about is COD being on PlayStation. And what fixes that? 10 years.
Yes.
Right? So, and with the EU, again, is just where really the other arguments on the EU are kind of ridiculous. When you talk about, using COD to get people to go to Windows to foreclose other operating systems. You can't do that, one, because you can't prove harm because COD has never run natively on Linux, right? And if anyone has a Steam Deck, you may know, even if they tried that, there's this little thing called Proton, which allows you to run Windows-based games on Linux. So Microsoft could not do that. That's thrown out easily. The cloud gaming market is too small to say that it's not even really a market, right? It's anyone who's tried to make it a market has closed it down, and anyone who offers cloud gaming right now, it is only an access point. There are no cloud native games, right, for any of these people, Amazon or Microsoft, right? And everyone who gives you cloud access, it is on top of a service you're already paying for. So you cannot make that a market even if you want to. So it really all comes down to the lessening of competition in the console space, which the 10 years handles. And I don't always agree with Michael Pachter, but he is right. The FTC knows if they take this to court, they will lose.
And they'll look like fools. They'll look like fools.
Do they want to lose 3 times in a row? Because Amazon embarrassed them, right, when they bought MGM, right? So the question. So I think that the deal is going to get done. Microsoft knows it's going to get done, and Sony is slowly starting to realize that. And I think that both regulators and Microsoft and Sony are leaking things to the press to try to sway the opinions of them. Like, I think that whole, the FTC is getting ready to sue. I think the FTC leaked that to Bloomberg or to Reuters so that they could let Microsoft know they're serious when it's time for negotiating concessions, so it could look like they did their job, right? And I think Microsoft obviously leaked this 10-year things to get to feel what the room was like, right? So they're all using the press to get the information out there that they want people to know. And all of this crying that Sony is doing and this whole wounded deer thing, you're going to see them come out so strong. And watch Jim Ryan say we never really needed COD anyway as soon as the deal closes. Mark my words, right?
He will.
So this is all political theater. The deal was always going to close. And Microsoft gave us a time frame, and they are just bringing people into the fold. So again, I say all this to say, if you're paying attention to this deal, you are going to start hearing more and more approval. It has to be approved in 16 places, but the real places they only care about are the US, the UK, and the EU. Yep. Those are the ones putting up those fights. The other 16s are, they could approve it, they could not approve it. It won't really matter because the deal will go through as long as they get those 3. So start watching out for the approvals to roll in. And if they can get the EU to approve, they're going to go show that to, hey, CMA, don't be too unreasonable. I know you just did Brexit, but like, these are your old buddies. They agree with it. They'll bring that to the FTC. Come on. How can we make you look good? Because again, they want to bring their detractors in. So if Lena Khan wants to be big on against big tech mergers, that's fine. Microsoft and through Brad Smith says, hey, FTC, Lena Khan, what can we do so that this is a good photo op so everybody feels good about this thing? I know we could fight it and we would win, but we don't want to do that. We want to make it look good, and you can use us as a template for more acquisitions in the future, right? So if you can't stop this acquisition, you can say, listen, you got us to open this store. You got us to change our app store rules. You got us to support the competition for longer than we had to, which is unprecedented. And that's how they do it, right? So the deal's going to go through, give it till March or April, but I think it could be sooner if the EU takes the bait.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, Wandering Dutch, to get your opinion on this, do you agree with the panel? Is Microsoft going to only, and I say only, being facetious, give them the 10-year deal? And is that enough?
Yeah, I've got to agree. Got to agree with it. I don't think there's absolutely any requirement for them in any way, shape, or form to give any other concessions. I don't even think the 10-year is a concession. I think that's Microsoft just giving them a hand-me-down. And essentially saying, listen, have it. Like, this isn't the big deal for us. Like, Call of Duty is not what we are buying this
Nope,
for.
it is.
You
It
know
is king, brother. That is, and not our king.
Yeah. The buying king. You heard it here first. um, but yeah, I don't think there's any requirement for them to give anything other than that. And to be fair, I don't even think they're doing that, as I mentioned there, as any requirement for any regulator. I think that's just them saying, listen, if it bothers you that much, we'll give you a 10-year deal. Like, outside of that 10-year agreement, there's absolutely nothing else we would need to concede for this to go through. Cloud, they're a big mover on the cloud, but in the respect of gaming, they're nowhere near a big mover in cloud. So that's kind of to the side. When you have a look at every other market that Xbox operate in, they're absolutely miles off. They were trying to mention in one of the reports something to do with PC operating system, which has absolutely no say whatsoever, and this deal would have absolutely no influx on the operating system anybody would invest in, considering it comes standard with pretty much every PC anyway, and only the ultra, should we say, nerdy of PC regulars would think about installing Linux-based operating system on anything outside of Mac owners. So it wouldn't affect that. So there'd be no concessions required for anything to do with operating systems. Across the board, really, there's nothing that they need to give. There is really nothing that they need to give in order to do that. So yeah, push comes to shove, I think they're just doing this as out of kindness to Sony, really, given the 10-year agreement. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate it. Listen, the king had to bow out because he has got to go to work. We also have Mag that dropped out because obviously he's doing a work situation. Let's bring in John Wolf. Mav had to also bounce out of here. He's got something to do with the family. John Wolf, let's get your final opinion, and then we will do outros. Everyone has had some really, really strong points. I think anything outside of 10 years is too much. Like Wandering Dutch just said, and Everborn for that matter, it's unprecedented to be offered in business. It's never been done. Obviously,
boom. Let me take that a step further in terms of unprecedented. There has never been an entertainment acquisition in the history of entertainment acquisitions that has required someone to give their competitor content that they are purchasing, right? You cannot point to it with WB Discovery. You can't point to it with Disney Fox. You can't point to it with Amazon and MGM. It's never happened where they're saying this IP that you have now the copyright and the trademarks to, you have to release it in the way that we tell you to. That's not a thing.
Correct, which is why I'm going to end this spicy. You know, from all the crying and all the BS that Jim has presented to these regulators, that he's basically, acted in this wounded deer way. I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of fanboys off. I hope they don't get shit, Boom. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. Look, for the PlayStation gamers listening out there, and you want to play Call of Duty, Microsoft has given you so many choices on how you will be able to play Call of Duty. Let's say that it does go exclusive. It doesn't make sense financially, but let's say that it does. Let's say that Phil Spencer wants to be petty and no concessions are needed. And he says, you know what? Starting with the next Call of Duty, it's going to be exclusive, Jim. How do you like that? They're not going to do it. It's not realistic, but still, let's say that they decide to do that, right? Microsoft has given players such a way, so many different ways to just get into the ecosystem. They're not making it harder for consumers like the PlayStation is, selling bundles only, okay? Adding games on top to add to the price of their console. They haven't done, they're not putting barriers in the way like Sony has done. So selfishly, I hope that they don't get any concessions, and I hope that Microsoft shows them that they don't run shit, Boom, like they think they do. You know, and I know that that's going to be a little bit too harsh. I'm showing some tough love here to all the little fanboys out there, because that's exactly what you guys need, a reality check. Okay?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. They are not owed anything. You are correct in saying so.
PlayStation is not the only games manufacturer in the world. Nintendo, they've acted like if Nintendo doesn't exist. They pretend that Microsoft is not a threat till they are, right? So at the end of the day, I really hope that there's no concessions, and you're right about that, Everborn, even though I still think that Phil's going to be true to his word, because Microsoft doesn't want to give the illusion for future acquisitions that, hey, you know what, these guys are really maybe trying to create a monopoly here and they're going to completely wipe Sony out. But it would be sweet to see. I'm going to be honest with you, from a selfish standpoint, guys, it would be sweet if everybody approves, everything gets approved, no concessions, because that will be the cherry on top to let everybody know that Jim was full of it. And I'll end it there.
I mean, listen, you know, I like the spiciness. I'm in your camp. I think that we're untouchable. We demand what we want when we want. People have to walk in our shadow. Nintendo doesn't exist, but they happen to only sell the worst reviewed Pokemon in history, 10 million copies in 3 days, which doubled up God of War. But they don't count. Somehow or another, they put them in a category where they don't count. They went on to even say that Microsoft is attempting to make us be a Nintendo. You wish you could be a Nintendo, which they are not. Let me read off the last 3 super chats, and then we will get everyone out of here. This has been a fire show. Mind you, this started out on wavy waters because we had a lot of people that are sick that had to back out literally at the last second. I cannot thank Mav. I cannot thank King David. And, of course, you yourself, John, for being here with myself, with, of course, the Wandering Dutch and Mag, who had to go back to work because obviously we wouldn't have had a show. And this show was fantastic, packed with information. Sifu Poetic X Initiative drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says this. So you think Sony's plan to use Microsoft as a scapegoat for no PlayStation 6? I mean, listen, PlayStation is going to be around. The question is whether or not they're going to be a publisher, because it just doesn't make any sense to put out a console. King has been saying that for years. Is it going to happen? Only time is going to tell. We'll see. If they sell another 118 million PlayStation 5s, I would think that there's going to be a PlayStation 6. That's my take on it. Abacab72, welcome back, brother. A long time, no time. He drops a $5 super chat and says, I wonder, with all the talk that Jim Ryan is doing, I wonder what Yoshida and Herman Holtz have to say about this. They can't be too happy about it. And I would agree there. I think that they are. I think that Jim Ryan, once again, it is the scorched earth mentality that he is doing is just not good. I think that he is going to really burn a lot of bridges with not just people that put games on his platform, but I think friendships are going to be ruined by this, because remember, they are putting the entire industry under a microscope for governments around the world, which normally stayed away from anything gaming, and that's Jim's fault. Sir X-Man drops the last super chat of the day of $5.
Hey, Boom, to that point, I think that's part of the reason Microsoft's trying to close this, even though they know they could win if they fought it, right? They don't need regulators all in their business for any longer than they need to be, right? So they're probably gonna concede something they may not have to, because you don't know what kind of investigations could get brought up after just being scrutinized so much by all this, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
just better for them to have it closed. If it means COD stays on PlayStation, who cares? It's just an advertisement for the value you get on Game Pass anyway.
Indeed. Sir X-Man drops the last $5 super chat of the day. Says, Phil says you can have Call of Duty. All of the other IPs for Activision's 45-year history is asked to do with, and you can't have it. So keep Call of Duty. And I agree. I think that's a big point. But let's get everyone out here. John Wolf, sell your brand, brother. Talk about your YouTube channel, where they can subscribe to it, and where can they reach out to you on social media.
Thanks, Boom. Thanks for the invite tonight, guys. And I know it was a little bit spicy today, but I'm like so sick and tired of Jim's horrible takes and just the BS, man. And it's just too much. Wandering Dutch, it was awesome, dude, to share the platform here with you. Everborn, as always. Again, you guys can find me on Twitter. Strike up a conversation. I've been putting a couple of tweets out there that have caught fire because one thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of sensitive people out there. You know, like if you mention something good about the Series S, it's like you get attacked for some reason. So now it's shameful to get to talk good about the Series S, and I think that's kind of weird. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter, guys, and strike up a conversation. Hit me up on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and it's been I hope everybody has a good night and a nice weekend.
Well, thank you so much. Wandering Dutch, sell your brand. You guys had a podcast today that I want you to talk about to get more people to subscribe to your YouTube channel. How could they do that? Where could they check out your other weekly shows? And more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Yeah, awesome shows ever. Great guests, great panel as usual, and great chat. You can find me everywhere at Wandering Dutch. You can find me every Tuesday on Sea of Tuesdays Playcast. You can find me every Wednesday on the Midweek Mix-Up, every second Sunday on the Weekend Edition, and of course on Boxenberger's World of Gaming right here on Primetime Gaming every Wednesday evening as well, straight after the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. So plenty of shows in between that. Of course, streaming some games at the moment, doing some God of War Ragnarok until completion, and building up to our 100th episode in 2 weeks.
Nice,
big
dude.
100. And
Congrats.
our 1 week, one whole straight week of streaming for charity, finishing with the 24-hour stream the week of the 12th until the week of until the 18th. So big end of the year for us. Quite a few shows coming up in between that time, so lots of content. But as always, awesome panel: John Wolf, Everborn, Boom, King, Mav, Mag, and everybody that can and cannot be here. Awesome as always. And see you all again next week.
Yeah, we also got your big event with Indies coming up next
Yes.
year. Cannot wait to be a
Yes.
part of that once again. That is and that's been recognized by many people within the industry, not just developers, a couple of publishers involved there. Can't wait to
Yep.
see more about that. Love what you're doing there. And Everborn Saga, sell your brand, brother. Where could people possibly reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, buy some of the incredible content from the Everborn Saga?
All right. The answer to all those questions is Everborn Saga. You can find me on Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam at Everborn Saga. You can also find me at your favorite social media network, which is TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Everborn Saga. If you want to get those books, you can check out everbornsaga.com. Please check us out. We got a lot planned for 2023. You want to get up to date with the series. We make an amazing book. If you're into fantasy, if you're into mangas and anime, we have a good amalgamation of Western fantasy mixed with anime style art. So check us out. It's an epic fantasy story, and we call it the Everborn Saga.
Well, thank you so much for that, brother. Definitely love having you a part of this panel each and every week. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. I'm Mr. BoomStick XL. This is Double Barrel Gaming, and this is one of the shows that you can find each and every week that I live stream 5 days a week. This is Primetime Gaming, the one evening show. If you're new to the channel, I saw a lot of new names here. Please, for the love of Joe, consider subscribing to the channel. We are just a couple of hundred of subs away from 12K. Would love to hit it this year. I think we're going to fall a little short, and that's okay. But if you are new and you'd like to, watch some of the content you saw here today, I stream 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, all different panels, all different shows, and only the best information. And of course, thank you to all of the super chats that came in. There were quite a few of them, and I do appreciate them. Folks, they do help power the big giveaways. And yes, in 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks, Mrs. Boomstick and I are doing something we have never done before. We are giving away $1,000 in 2 hours. That's right, folks. 10 $100 gift cards to your choice of platform. The first 500 are reserved for channel members, and the second 5 are anyone that drops a super chat, a channel member, or is in the chat. So even if you're not, you don't drop a super chat or you're a channel member, you still got a shot at winning one of those 5 $100 gift cards. And we do welcome our international viewers. If you're outside of the US, we will get you that prize, but we do use PayPal because it's safer for us. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being here. I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.